wanna get high, man?
Let's stimulate your mind.
Get up, Chucky!
What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
Rojan Kim?
Hello, and welcome to the Rojan Kim cast. It's me, Rojan Kim. Thank you for tuning in to the show. It's episode number 131. Oh my God, I'm keeping count. I keep going. Who will stop me? Who will stop me? Not the fascist takeover of this country, huh? Not the decline of our freedom and liberty. Not the encroaching police state. Not I don't know, Russian interference, Chinese coronavirus. Nobody can stop me from rambling and ranting into a microphone, onto a memory card, and then into the cloud for your 12 years to, 24 years. It's probably about 12 listeners. I'm sorry, it's ableist of me to assume that each of you have 2 ears. You might have 1, you might have 3. It's not fair to me to just assume that you have 2 ears, okay? Like a human being. It's not fair for me to assume you are a human being. In fact, oh my God, how dare I assume that one of those listeners could very well possibly be, whether wonder kinder, what are they called? The otherkin, and could identify with being some other kin. So to you, I extend a welcome. I welcome all ears or no ears. I mean, if you're deaf and somehow listening to this, thank you. You can't hear what I'm saying. You can't even hear that I'm thanking you until I put out maybe a captioned version of this, and then you could see that I was directly addressing my deaf audience. And for the rest of you who can hear, I know it's isolating, right? You feel left out. Well, that's what it feels like to be deaf, all right? So there I am. I'm defending the deaf. Here I am. That's right. I'm standing up for the rights of those who don't need me to stand up for them. They don't need me. Nobody needs me for that. Nobody needs me in general. No, I'm just kidding. That is not true. Badger needs me. Badger over there is my dog, of course. Most of you probably know him. He needs me. I'm needed. I'm necessary. I need to water the plants. I need to deliver my message of freedom. What is my message? Hate? What am I? My message of hate and frankly, the overthrow of the government. No, I don't advocate violence. I don't advocate. Longtime listeners, I'm sure out of the 12, one of you, my aunt, has been listening from the beginning, and despite the fact she has no idea what I'm saying, I bet she could vouch for the fact that it doesn't seem violent, right? She thought last podcast, she thought I was talking about hurting myself when I was recounting how I hurt myself, and she had thought I was telling a story about how I hurt myself in the present. And sometimes these little things are lost in language, in translation. You sometimes think a story about the past is a story about the recent past. Maybe I should stress, maybe I should be more conscious that she's listening and try to speak. Maybe I should speak slowly. Should I speak slower and be like, okay, now I'm going to tell a story about something that happened a long time ago, not recently. Long time ago, okay? Long time ago, I got hurt. My knee got hurt. A long time ago. Long time ago, not now. I'm talking about a time a long time ago. See, I don't know. That kind of ruins my flow, though. It's hard. It's part of my improv training to play to the top of the room, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure out of the 12 of you, the top, I mean, the ceiling's got to be high, right? Could be goddamn Stephen Hawking. That's I mean, he's dead. But a Stephen Hawking's type intellect, yes, you have to be trapped in a chair if you're really smart in order to be caught listening to me. But I appreciate that it's happening, not the disease that has trapped your poor body into the chair and has reduced it to a husk of its former self. And Stephen Hawking used to fucking sling dick, you know what I'm saying? Like he fucking cheated on his wife while he was in the wheelchair. You know what kind of fucking, first of all, I mean, you gotta be pretty horny to even be like, gotta get me some of that instead. You know, I'm tired of this bitch. Tired of this old bitch. Tired of this bitch. I need some new bitch. I need that new bitch. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta be really, the testosterone has gotta really be flowing through, even though your body is just useless. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still just like, gotta get me some of that new pussy, save me, new pussy, young pussy, you know, like, and he must have had some game. I mean, I don't know. I guess he's kind of sort of supposed to be the most brilliant man in the world or whatever. So if you got that going, if you're a sapiosexual, you know what I mean? I guess that's hot, you know, even though his body is a twisted, decrepit mess. He's still, maybe, what if he still, do you think he still got hard? Oh, God. You think I did not intend for this to be a treatise, a look into whether Stephen Hawking's got boners, but, oh, man. He must have. He was still alive, too, during the age of Viagra. He probably got down a little bit. Well, the whole point is that he managed to fucking woo a woman while he was paralyzed, break up with his wife, and still kind of, everybody's all kind of like cool about it, too. Like, everybody's all cool about, that's just fucking, you know what I mean? Like, he must have had some dick. Or brain dick. Maybe it's his brain, you know? His brain was like a dick, and that was satisfying. They were cool with it. I don't know. God bless him. Apparently, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't that nice to people, but he sure slang that dick, right? All right, Stephen Hawking's R.I.P. Ooh, hey, that's an interesting bit, though. I mean, I feel like I'm just stumbling onto this whole idea of somebody must have done a bit about this already. Well, it's not going to stop me. I'm going to just kind of do it and see if it's out there, but got to do it on stage. Well, thank you for being here and witnessing the birth of a bit. Sometimes bits are birthed. Will I remember this? Got to write this down. Oh, shit. I got to I'm just going to write it. Stephen Hawking. I just wrote Dick Game. I guess that's... Okay, something worth exploring on stage. Thank you so much for being part of this process. This whole thing, I wanted to actually talk about politics and even though I'm like, I was like, I don't really care about politics or I'm not, and then all I do is talk about it and I'm interested in it. So I am interested. I mean, I was a political science major, for God's sake, so I've always been interested in political philosophy. I'm starting to now learn more about like Austrian economics, the libertarian sort of stuff, reading some Mises, Rothbard, kind of getting into that kind of shit. Ron Paul, take a look at Scott Horton. Great voice. I mean, I don't agree, or I can't even say if I agree, disagree. I just don't know, man. I don't know enough to just be like, yes, this is the answer. But I feel like it's worth listening to voices that aren't mainstream voices. So I guess that's why politics interests me. Okay, because what doesn't interest me is the same old shit that you're hearing on the news. So I bet I could say this, at least as much as I talk about politics, as much as I talk about stuff. I don't think I'm necessarily repeating what you're hearing on the news, or I don't know. Am I? I don't know. I don't necessarily watch a lot of that news. I watch some of it. I watch a little bit, just enough to kind of see what they're saying, but I don't go into the deep dive and have that on as my primary source of information. I like to have lots of other sources of information. Lots of sources on the progressive left. A bunch of journalists that aren't even allowed on MSNBC, the so-called liberal channel, right? I'm talking about people, like Chris Hedges. They fired Phil Donahue for being against the war. They fucking, Jimmy Dore is a comedian, but he's a voice on the left. They could have him on. Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, Aaron Monte, Michael Tracy. All these guys have been smeared as Russians or I don't know, whatever. They've all been smeared, and so those are people on the left. But then there's people on the right that I also was, Ron Paul, Scott Horton, fucking I don't know, Thomas Woods or whatever his name is. I don't know. Listen, there's voices on the left, voices on the right that aren't necessarily the mainstream voices that provide a counterpoint to the mainstream news. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of what Jon Stewart did with The Daily Show. Other people are doing both comedically and seriously on their own, providing commentary to mainstream news, which I think is invaluable, right? Because then you get to see the perspectives. You get to see how the news is not, frankly, the news is failing us in journalism. It's doing a great job in being mouthpieces for the state and the military-industrial complex and the banks and I don't know, whatever the fuck, for the elites. For the elites, the people in power who have money. Meanwhile, independent media seems to be a bit more bottom-up, grassroots, as people interested in populism, people interested in voices on the ground, people who are not millionaires protecting billionaires, So that seems to be what the divide really is. I don't think there's a left-right divide. I don't think there's a Republican, Democrat thing. I don't think that's real anymore, man. The Democrats and the Republicans, the only thing that really divides them is stuff like trans rights and abortion. It's like a lot of social issues. But in terms of war, they're both for it. In fact, the left used to be the anti-war party. They want to go to war with Russia. They want to expand the war, Meanwhile, the right mostly wants to go to war with Iran. They both want to expand war. They're just disagreeing on as to which direction it needs to expand in, Like, which direction should our national security state take us in unending war? Not like, there's no debate about, like, should we stop unending war? Should we have such a giant state apparatus that's, like, global? Like 200 military bases and shit like that. So anyways, voices on the left and the right. Voices, Tulsi Gabbard, people who are against the military-industrial complex, people who are interested in either, they call it protecting our borders or some kind of nationalist economics or fucking, I don't know, man. I don't know what the fucking answer is. I just know that the mainstream shit doesn't seem to be working, right? So you got a guy like Bloomberg coming in, right? Just coming in out of nowhere. He gets to be on the debate. He was just on the debate last night. And they didn't let fucking Tulsi Gabbard or Andrew Yang or any of these like smaller candidates. They used to have all these like donor requirements, right? You gotta have all these donor requirements to show that you're serious, to be able to be on the stage. And now Michael Bloomberg, he just comes in without meeting any of those requirements just because he's got 80 billion or some shit. You know what I mean? He's a fucking huge billionaire, just buys his way onto the stage, and is obviously not the most charismatic fellow. Right? He's not the most charismatic fellow. It's pretty obvious, but he's putting forward a strong case for the managerial class to resume, ownership or resume kind of taking that figurehead position. Basically it's like a Bloomberg versus Trump thing is very interesting to me because that just means like, do you like your lizard people with your masks on or your masks off, right? That's really, yeah. And last election it was just like, fuck it, mask off. You know what I mean? Fuck it. Might as well have a fucking, pussy grabbing motherfucker up there. They're fucking all corrupt anyway. And now we're like, you know what? We take it back. Maybe the country's like, maybe we like the mask on. We like the mask. Put the mask back on. Put it back on. Oh God, please put the mask back. We don't like the lizard. We don't like the lizard people. We don't like the reptilian. We put it back. That's what we're saying. And I think what's fascinating about all of this is that all the way back to the times of ancient Rome, right? Rich men were not necessarily the most powerful men. Right? In Julius Caesar's time, Julius Caesar had like a money problem, but he didn't have a popularity problem. People fucking loved Julius Caesar, right? He was fucking writing dispatches from the Gallic War and sending treasure back to Rome, and then he fucking had games and shit. Like the people loved Julius Caesar. That's the whole thing, right? Even there, I guess you have a really interesting dynamic between populism and the elites, right? The richest men in Rome at the time couldn't gain the power and popularity of Caesar, because Caesar was very good at war and very good at public relations and very good at fucking getting people to like him. You know, he was a master politician in that way. So money does not equal politics. You know, so what ends up happening is that the fucking richest dudes end up uniting with Caesar, right? Backing him, giving him money, because that's how they get powers, through this guy, Caesar. So Caesar is a super interesting example of a person who was not rich, but used his charisma, his fucking war prowess, you know, warrior. So he was a warrior. He was a statesman, right? He was a fucking man of the people. And that was way more powerful than all the money in Rome. And throughout history, you can see it's like, you know, the money people back the power people. So they're kind of, perhaps they might have the true power, right? They're in the back. They're in the background funding things, whatever. But at the same time, they wouldn't have any power unless the people, whoever it is, they bequeath their money onto to make things happen, could do it, which is what Bloomberg is ultimately positioning himself to be, right? I don't think he's a very charismatic fellow, but he is saying, like, I will put my fortune behind whoever gets the nomination. You know what I'm saying? Whoever's running against Trump, I'll put my fucking, because he fucking hates Trump. I think it's very clear that he hates Trump. He doesn't need to do any of this shit. Why is he doing it? He's coming, I mean, I don't, you know, Trump, I believe, you know, was doing it because he wanted to be president, and then at the last minute before he became president was like, oh no. You know, and now he's like, all right, now the Democrats have helped him win, so he's going to go down looking like pretty much better guy than he deserves to be. But honestly, he's not as bad a guy as everybody's making him out to be. So that's how it's all fucking backfiring, right? Meanwhile, you have Bloomberg, who nobody really likes, not even his own side, right? He's got tons of money. He's just buying his way in, right? And right now we get to see work out in real time, right? It's, you know, people are calling it the leveraged buyout of the DNC, which, yes, it's happening. But what we're also seeing is the true conflict. See, there's no left and right anymore. They're the same. They both love war. They both love business. You know, they both love the elites. You know, it's populism versus elitism. That's really what the real tension is, right? That's why both Democrats and Republicans can unite behind hating Bernie Sanders, right? That's why they could do that, because it's populism, right? That's why they're Republican never Trumpers, right? But that eventually came to kowtow to Trump. But at first, they were completely against Trump because Trump represented a populist movement from the Republican side. You know, this Tea Party shit and the people on the ground. It wasn't like, you know, the fucking Mitch McConnells and all those motherfuckers. At first, all those motherfuckers hated Trump because they were like, he's taking the mask off. I want this, you know, Boehner, all those remember those guys? Romney, all those guys? They fucking hated him because Trump was never in. You know, he's never in. But he fucking forced his way in, right? Because he was good. He was good at fucking, well, not war like Caesar. I guess we don't need to do that anymore. We just need to send people to war. We don't need to fucking be at war ourselves, or we don't expect our leaders to. But he was a TV man. He knew his TV. You know what I'm saying? He knew his TVs, knew his news, and he fucking played all these motherfuckers, you know, fucking Warren with the Pocahontas shit, baiting her, getting her to take a DNA test without even asking. She just does it herself and then fucking shoots herself in the foot. Like all this shit. So, what we're seeing is elitism versus populism playing out in real time. I mean, this is historical. This is really, truly, truly historical, guys. I don't think you know, I don't know. I think when people, not yet, when we're dead and they look back on this time, they're going to fucking have a field day writing about this shit. It's fascinating, right? You got the fucking rich oligarch versus fucking huckster, you know, paper billionaire, just game show host, about to square off against each other. Real money versus fake money. You know what I'm saying? Fucking real news versus fake news. Bloomberg owns the news. Bloomberg owns Bloomberg. I mean, do you understand? Bloomberg owns the fucking financial data nerve center, okay, of New York. Like, do you understand? Do you get? Oh my God. Do you understand? It's like in this New York versus New York, right? But really, truly, populism versus elitism, you know, playing out. Again, fascinating. And, you know, it's like There's this whole, it's not even socialism versus capitalism. That's not even a real thing. And I think, people are talking about Marx and all this shit. Marx, I think, was right in some ways. He wasn't necessarily right about, communism in the 20th century, but he might be right about it in the 21st century. We don't know. We might be witnessing what he's talking about, late stage capitalism, this bourgeois sort of, the overthrow of the bourgeois by the proletariat, whatever. But it might not even be in those terms per se, but with Marx, he did phrase everything in the dialectic, right? The dialectic as in like the conflict between two things leading to a third thing, right? Which is originally from Hegel, his fucking master or whatever, not master, teacher, the guy who taught him, his Jedi master. Hegel was all about the dialectic, and he said there's a cultural dialectic, and he was just like, the fucking culture, like, changes the material conditions. So he was just like, back in the time when we had a bunch of different gods, we had shitty, fucking hunter-gatherer conditions, but as we grew to Christianity, we like became more and more logical and whatever, you get it. So he's basically arguing like it's the culture, the way people think actually changes the material conditions of what's going on. And then Marx turned it on its head. That's what they say about it. Turned Hegel on its head with his material dialectic and said, no, it's the other way around. It's the material conditions that actually dictate the way people think, which is true, right? I mean, look, now people don't fucking get married as much when people back then had to because of the material conditions that were necessary, and marriage itself as an institution is kind of eroded, so many people are getting divorced that it's not even, people used to be murdered for adultery, it just doesn't happen anymore. The material conditions really do dictate a lot of our social mores and really how we think. If we lost industrialized food, we would change the way we eat. It just makes sense. It makes sense. And so I think, and also Marx is right in the sense that there is a conflict between groups of people that are going to drive change. He just had this 19th century, 20th century, early 20th century sort of like, that's what was going on, so that's all he could imagine. He could never imagine that it would be like this, where you have wealth being concentrated. I mean, he did imagine it, but not like this. I mean, he would fucking have a field day with this, because what are we seeing? We're seeing the super rich, uniting against a guy who claims to be working for the interests of the poor, but he's really working for the interests of his own super rich, just not the super rich guys that the real super rich, like the truly, truly super rich, want. In the end, they probably don't care. You know what I mean? Like, if they wanted to remove Donald Trump, the powers that be, the same people who removed Kennedy, I think they could. But I think they know with Donald Trump, he's not fucking a true populist. You know what I'm saying? They're never going to let a true populist into the presidency. That's what I think. And it sounds conspiratorial. But I think I don't mean that like there's direct control or anything. I think it's just going to be immensely difficult for a populist to get into office. And I think that is what happened with Trump and why he's such a threat. That's why the entire deep state apparatus mobilized against him, tried to take him down, right? Yeah, they could have just shot him, but they didn't, because I think they knew that, like, he'll play ball, he'll come around. But they needed to make a spectacle of it because of the politics, right? Politics, the fake red versus blue, Bloods versus Crips, baseball team mentality that sort of whips up the entire population and gets them completely distracted from shit on the ground, right? Completely distracted from local stuff, day-to-day stuff that could actually affect him, and more invested in this sort of, I don't know, kind of symbolic sort of struggle between two sides of the same coin, right? Meanwhile, missing out on the actual struggle going on, between the people and the elites. The people who have, basically, it's like the haves are pitting the have-nots versus the have-nothings, right? And at some point, they're going to realize we're on the same side, And that's actually just what happens throughout history. Throughout history, there's, city-states, the wealth disparity would get so crazy that eventually the people would rise up And in democracies like ancient Greek city-states, democracies would just elect a demagogue, a Trump-like figure, who would come in and then just fucking fuck everything up, but then make everything corrupt again. And eventually it's the decline of the city-state. The whole thing would just crumble at some point, and that would just happen over and over. So that's the thing we could be seeing happening right now. We could be on the precipice of it. Maybe, or maybe not. I mean, we don't know. America's great just because it has a lot of release valves. Doesn't necessarily, it has mechanisms in place for power to change, without full-on coups, right? So we get to see a rich man buy his way in, not just to the presidency. I don't think he's going to become president, but we can definitely see him buy his way into becoming a kingmaker, right? Just openly. I guess that's what's really fascinating now, is that all this shit used to kind of just take place behind closed doors, but now it's just happening on live television. And I think what a wonderful time. Listen, as Americans, we deserve the finest entertainment, okay? I mean, the Romans, sure, they had gladiators and fucking hundreds of lions and shit. Caesar knew about that. He knew, understood. That's what the people want to see. But now we can't fucking pit prisoners against lions anymore, unfortunately. As much as we would love to. We'd love to see that. You would love to see that. But unfortunately, what we now get to see is the spectacle of a billionaire, a multi-billionaire, taking on the just the political mechanism of its country and just uprooting it and exposing how corrupt it is. Exposing, pretty soon, people will be either saying Michael Bloomberg is the last hope for humanity, or it's okay if he backs Elizabeth Warren or whoever the fuck. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right for us to unite with billionaires, all right? There's no conflict between us and billionaires. That's so divisive. We need to be a coalition together, us, the people and the elites, working together for each other's interests, because that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been, guys, right? They have our interests in mind. So just remember that, no matter who it is, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Bernie Sanders, Michael Bloomberg, they're all just elites, elite white guys who have our best interests in mind, and it doesn't matter if they're white. Who cares, right? Let's just, understand that it's a benevolent paternalism. They're like a good daddy. They're good daddies, and we all need good daddies, right? I know I do, guys. I don't know where the fuck he He's in Texas. Texas, great state of Texas. I'm learning a lot about it, watching this documentary called The West. Highly recommend it. It's almost gone. It'll be gone March 14th. And it's a great story of the subjugation and really wholesale slaughter of Native Americans. But under the guise of, cowboys and a lot of gold rush stuff, good stuff too. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Rojan Kimcast, episode 131. You know what to do. Follow me out there. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Get at me. Go on my website. Go to the fucking places where you get the podcasts and please subscribe. Tell somebody about this. Tell them. Say, hey, you want to hear a cool podcast? Go subscribe to the Rojan Kimcast. You want a cool comedian? You want a cool comedian in your Twitter feed or your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed? Go follow Rojan Kim. Find him. Find me. You're my only hope. Okay, thanks.